Hello, everybody. This is my final, Leadcast discussion exam. Um, so my favorite podcast to create had to have been the third one, which is where I brought in my boyfriend to talk about the expectations, kind of like communication, the job rotation, and kind of what's expected within the organization. Um, What made it click for me was because I had that past experience in both just retail worker and then in the management field. It was easy to kind of put it all together, like from the book definitions to how it can relate to real world scenarios. It was also really fun because I got to bring in my boyfriend on it, and he actively works in retail, so he can understand kind of the problems that there could be with the chain of command, with the communication, with the job rotation. And it was fun to honestly discuss that with him just because I experienced what he did and also the management side. So, being able to talk about the expectations from the management perspective versus the floor perspective was really fun. Um, what surprised me most about hosting this type of style assignment, um, the whole thing was pretty exciting, if I'm being completely honest. It was challenging trying to come up with ways to make it a conversational topic rather than reading from a script, but it also felt more natural to have it written out and then seeing where you can add in anecdotes, where you can add in examples. And I think I'm more surprised at how easy it was to kind of plan it out and really just put it into words, like the type of conversation you wanted to have and the type of connections that you kind of feel with your partner or with the topic itself. Because while you're pulling it from the book, you're also doing research and you're putting in the personal experience. So you're actually learning more about your job and just kind of the backside of it. In what ways did the planning sheet help or hinder your creative organizational process? It didn't hinder it at all, if I'm being completely honest. For me, I think the planning sheet helped a lot more than I expected it to, just because it gave you room for all of your talking points, and then it also gave you room for error. So you had that time frame, but then you also knew that you can always add more or you can add less because you're talking more about this topic, talking less about this one. And it gives you more room to be creative with the examples that you bring in. And it gives you that creative process to come up with the questions, come up with how you want to answer them, and what you feel like you can add to the conversation to kind of further prove the point of the communication style, any policies, any expectations that are already preset with the job in a way. Um, one, so what's one major takeaway about leadership communication or collaboration? Honestly, I gained a lot of communication skills, whether it be talking to my manager or even communicating with others. Like this series, it gave me the opportunity to communicate with someone like my reoccurring guest, Nick. I really appreciate the friendship that was given or provided to me with this series because we were able to share our different experiences even though we haven't met prior to this, and we were able to make it kind of more fun. So we were able to collaborate on that, come up with different ways we can add examples, different ways we can kind of fluff up the topic to make it more intriguing for the both of us. And even bringing in the boyfriend, it was great to kind of understand how we all were as leaders within ourselves, within our businesses, and just kind of how we choose to accept the facts that are written out and how we plan to kind of put them into perspective and put them into our real lives. So now, my 3 questions. So, first one, was there anything you planned to include but ended up cutting, and why? The second one, how did you adapt when something didn't go as planned during filming? That one is an interesting one. And number 3, let's see. What did you learn about yourself as a communicator or host through this process? Thank you so much for the opportunity to do this podcast series, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.